By the way, just Michael, just with the schedule that we posted, you're gonna have to stick to the times with this Shayas and Musar to make the mincha 6:45.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Well, it might have to adjust whatever it is. Yeah. Okay, we're almost by Eila Metzias, another few blocks, and then at least we have Epis, some experience with whatever. Meanwhile, we still have these difficult Gemaras. Okay, so we left off in the bottom. We didn't do any Muslim. Okay, cool. 2 lines up from the bottom. Yeah, the kafran. So we left off with the Gemara yesterday that if a guy's a kafran, right? Again, another thing that we didn't understand, or at least I didn't understand, which is that because a guy one time defaulted on a loan, that means his credit is shot for life. Because one time a guy balonied and he said that that the loan was paid or he never took out the loan, so that's it. So for the rest of his life, he has no credit rating. But that's what the Gemara said. At least that was one sheet in the Gemara. Then the Gemara says 2 lines up. The Gemara is used to going on tangents. It doesn't always announce it before it goes on a tangent. But here it announces it. The kafram, let's say something. Right? Normally the Gemara just does this without giving this hakdama that once we mentioned something, so now let's go off on a tangent. Here the Gemara says it. So once it came to our hands, so let's say something about it. Right? Say 10 loy. Right? If you say, we had the similar Gemara Bava Kama. If the Bezdin tells him, go out and give him the money that you owe, meaning they tell the lender, go out and take back the money, pay back the money. So on Tamid Aleph, Va'amar Parati, and the guy said, I already paid. Neman, he's believed, and not only is he believed, but Ba Malva Lichtav, and if the Malva wants to come and wants them to write down a psak, he says he wants Bezdin to write a psak that this guy paid. Ain't Kaisman V'Nazim, we do not give it to him. All right, because he might say, meaning he might take this. I'm not sure how he's going to take this, but he's going to take this receipt that Bezdin Paskin that the guy. I'm sorry. Bezdin Paskin that he has to go pay, right? And if he says Parati, he's Nema. And if the Malva wants a psak that Bezdin said that he should pay, they don't give it to him because he may double dip. Right? He may double dip and say, "Oh, you owe me money." Right? So basically, the verdict goes with the loiva. That's if they say, go out and pay. Chayiv atavlitim. But if Bezdin says you're chayiv to give it to him, v'omar parati, and he said, I already paid, then Einanem, and he's not believed. All right? Meaning there's a difference between Bezdin telling him say and Bezdin telling him chayiv. See, I would have thought, of course, the opposite. Chayiv is what's a stronger terminology for Bezdin to tell a guy? Go out and pay or chayiv to pay? I would have thought chayiv is stronger, but no, say is stronger.
They're different things, aren't they? Chayiv is the psak Bezdin. That's the end of the entire. Say is the command. After the psak, they tell him to go pay. They enforce it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But say is the stronger of the two terminologies.
It's not stronger or weaker. It's a different thing. One's the psak, one's the enforcement of the psak.
Correct. But I'm saying, but I would have thought that the terminology would be the opposite, but that's not what it is, which is a raya that das balabatim is lehefer from das Torah.
No, right? it's two different things. When someone asks you a Tyler, you give them the psak.
Not comparable. What Gershon is saying is it's not comparable.
It's not supposed to be comparable.
So I'm saying, but you're saying one is more strict. It's not a comparable term.
It's not a comparable term. I'm asking it's not a comparable term. But I would have used chayiv.
No, you do it all the time. When people ask you shilas, the answer to the shaila is chayiv patur tamei tahir. That's the
Zavid
psak.
uses it. Rav Zavid uses it interchangeably.
What the next
Who?
shita? Well, he has a kasha, but he's gonna have his own difference also.
But he uses it interchangeably. Like, what's the difference if I say this or say this? To him, it's like the Havamina it's the same thing.
Well, in this particular scenario, yes, you're right. Right? But again, there's a difference between say and chayiv. Yeah, okay. No, I would have used a little different terminology. For what you're saying, Gershon, I would say say is not strong enough. That's all. Say means go out and pay him. Go pay him. Right? I would say something like your mechuyev, like get off your horse or whatever and go pay him. Right, what's the difference? It's narishkat. The point is that say is a more direct din from Bezdin that he has to go pay, and chayiv is not. Right? So there he's not believed. But Malva Lichtav, and if the Malva wants a ksav from Bezdin that the loy was chayiv to pay him, they write it and they give it to him. All right, because we basically what we're saying is that, and this is the way most people are with debt. You're not going to pay your debt until your mom is pushed against the wall. You're going to push it for as long as you can. So if Bezdin just said you're chayiv, this is what Gershon is saying. You're chayiv. So they're saying you're going to have to pay it, but they're not enforcing it. So until they enforce it, you're not going to pay it. Right? And so therefore, if they only said chayiv, the assumption is the lawyer is not going to pay. Once they said say you better go out and do it, then he's neman that he paid. Rab Zvid, Mishmei de Rab Nachman Omar, he says bein say 10 loy bein chayiv atalit loy, doesn't make a difference. Either one of those two terminologies from a parati, and the loy says he paid neman, he's believed. Bom malva lichtov, and if the malva comes and says he wants it, ain't a written psak and we don't write it and give it to him because we don't want him to take it out and make the loy pay again. Okay, if you want to differentiate between using the word say and the word chayiv, this is how you should do it. Amrulai, say 10 loy. If Bezdin says go and give it to him, Amar he says parati, and he says I paid them. And witnesses come and say that this guy's a liar, he did not pay it back. Now, I mean, what does that mean? How did they know you didn't pay it back?
Because part of his taina has to be when and where.
Correct. Meaning they can't say he's with him 24/7. Right? How do you know he didn't pay it back? 3:00 in the morning. Right? So that's what Rashi says. In front of us, Bezdin said that he should pay, and he didn't pay. Meaning Bezdin called him to Bezdin, said, pay us right now. He did not pay. Right? And Rashi says, and since he had the chutzpah to not listen to Bezdin in front of Bezdin, then we're not going to assume that in the middle of the night he decided to pay. Meaning, if a guy had the goal to refuse Bezdin in front of Bezdin, then the guy can't say, oh yeah, but I paid him back in the middle of the night. Then he's not going to be believed to that. Right? Meaning, what Rashi is saying is enochanami. They don't have to be with the guy 24/7 in order to prove that he never paid back the loan. Just once he had the chutzpah to deny it in Bezdin, then the assumption is he's never going to pay it. So anyway, so Huchsa Kafan La'isa Mammon, he becomes a koifer for that money, and Mamela, he's never believed that he paid it back. Right? Meaning, so now he has to pay it back with witnesses. If he never paid it back with witnesses, then he's assumed that he didn't pay it back. Chayev atalit loy. But if Bezdin said he's chayev, V'amar parati, and he said I'm going to pay by Edom Eden Isai Shaloi Para, and the Edom are going to say Edom that he didn't pay because of V'amar parati. And he went back and he said, I did pay loy Huchsa Kafran loy Samam, and he's not a kafran. Right? Again, where he says, where Bezdin told him chayev, and he got caught lying that he paid it back, he is not a Huchsa Kafran. My timer, meaning his credit rating is not shot. Right? He's just trying to escape from the guy. Meaning he's just trying to push it off. Until the Rabbanon are ma'ayin in my din. Right? I'm gonna deny it, which is exactly what we all do, right? You get a ticket, you get a traffic ticket. So what do? You plead not guilty. And you just keep kicking the can down the road till they push you against the wall. And then you finally can say, oh yeah, you know what, maybe I did speed, blah, 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 right? So you just that denial that you did anything wrong, is not really considered you're not going to go to contempt of court if you say, not at least maybe everybody except Natoli, but right, but if you deny it, you deny it. That's what's meant, that's what you're supposed to do. Right, so those are the two differences between the word say and chayev. So a guy goes and says, "There's 100 of mine in your hand." And the other guy says, "I don't have anything." The Eidim say that he did. So the guy got caught. Right? He said he didn't owe money, and the Eidim say he did owe money because of Amar Parati. And he goes back and he says he paid. Huksa kafran loisa mammon. He is a kafran for that money, and he's not believed, right? Because he denied it, and the Eidim proved him wrong. He had to Shabsai Breder of Marinos, very interesting name. Shabsai, the son of Rabbi Marinos. Kosav la the kalase it's the milsa b'ksubasa. He wrote for the ksuba for his daughter-in-law. He wrote that she's going to get an itztala, some sort of coat, right? The kibla, meaning as part of her ksuba, the kibla alay, and he was makabel the responsibility, meaning he was the arev l'chayra on his son's ksuba. Irkas ksuba, so her ksuba got lost. Amar, and the Masar instructions Amar Allah, he says to her, Asu Sadi, Amri. I'm sorry, Amar Allah, and he told it to her that it's not true. I never promised that I'm giving you this coat. Asu Sadi Amri came witnesses and said, in Kosavla, yeah, he did write in the ksuba. Now again, the ksuba got lost, so we don't know. So the Eidim said, no, we remember in the ksuba when we signed on the ksuba, this guy was offering her a coat. V'saif Amar Lahu Parati. In the end, then he went and he said, I gave it to her already. So now he changed his story. First, the story was just not true. He said, it's not true. I never offered my daughter-in-law this coat. And then, Adam came and said that he did offer the coat. And then he changed his story and he said, he paid it. So also, he came from Rakhia. Amrale, Huksuk the Kafran, Loisa, Itzla, he Hukzekes, Kafran, Loisa, Itzla. He has already chazaka that he's a kaifer, and therefore he's not believed in this case anymore. So anything that he did, he would have to do with Eidim. So basically, the aside that the Gemara is saying is that it could be that within we judge a person within each particular case. Meaning, once he gets caught denying in one case, then he's stuck with not being believed in this case anymore. But could be, but for another case, he would be believed. Fine. If a person was chayiv to his friend a shvua. Now we're taking the same Gemara, similar Gemaras, but instead he got caught making a false shvua. And he said, I swore already. Right? He says chayiv to his chaver a shvua, and he says nishpati. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say in the previous Gemara, when the loiva said he paid it back, he still has to make a shvuas heses. Right, which is a shvua that we require everybody to make just to scare him, and so he's not lying. Just like the loiva says, okay, I paid it back and finished, he just walks away. He still has to make a shvuas heses, which is a shvua to make him nervous. Okay, anyway, so he's chayiv to make a shvua. For whatever reason, he has to make a shvua. And he said, I swore. And the Eidim made a shvua that he may have said, they testified that he didn't, which is the same thing that we said before in the Rashi in Bezdin, that he says Eidos, that the Eidim say Eidos that the guy refused to make a shvua, right? So then again, there's a girsa issue. Then he went and he said he changed his mind. Either way, Huchsa Kafran Lois a shvua, he becomes a kofer for that shvua. Meaning, and if he says he's going to make a shvua again, or that he says he made a shvua, he's not believed. Same Gemara as before, except replace the money with shvua. Amru Kamed Rabavo, Amru Mustavra Milsa de Rabavin. What Rabavin is saying is Mistama true, Shanasayv shvua bezdin. That's when he's chayv shvua in a bezdin. Av chayv atzma shvua, but if he stam made a volunteer shvua, right? Neman, he's a Neman. Why? Because Avid Inish, the Mikriva Omar, because a person might come and say that how do you say it? It's the same thing we said before. A person might be using it to kick the can down the road, and that he's making a shvua. The reason why he denied making a shvua, or he refused to make a shvua, not more denied. The reason why he refused to make a shvua is because he says, you know what, I'll wait until I figure this whole thing out. Right. So Adruka made the Rav Avin. So they came back to Rav Avin, and basically they asked him if he agrees with this psak. He said, yeah, I said this is only in the shvua and bezdin, but if he voluntarily makes the shvua, then it will be believed. Fine. And he says, I swore, but the Edom say that he didn't swear. He's a kafran for that shvua, and he's no longer believed in that case. Fine. So Amar of Asi, Amar of Yochanan, Hamoitzi shtar choyv b'shuk. Let's say a guy finds a shtar choyv in the shuk, because by Henvik, and he writes a receipt. Not a receipt. What do you call it? The Bezdin confirmed it, a confirmation. Right. So he finds a shtar choyv in the shuk that one person owes another person money, and it's got that stamp of Bezdin that they confirmed it. Because of boy, and the zman is that day, meaning it says today the guy wrote a shtar that he borrowed money. Yachziru l'bailim, then he should give it back to the lender. Why? If you're worried that maybe he wrote the shtar that he will eventually lend the money, and he didn't lend the money, there's a henpik it's already confirmed from Bezdin. And if it's because we're afraid that he paid him, we're not chayshish that a guy borrows money today and is a shtar in Bezdin and he paid back the loan today. Why would he write a shtar? If he plans on paying back the loan, there's no reason to write a shtar. I mean, you're supposed to always write a shtar, but you're not paying. If you went through the headache of writing a shtar, you're not paying it back that day. Right? So the Gemara is saying, give it back to the lawyer. Some of the Rozela Rav Asi, Miyam Rav Yochanan, Hachi, the Rav Yochanan really say this psak. You yourself said in the name of Yochanan, shtar shaloi. If you have a shtar that somebody used and he paid it back, right? Meaning you had a regular IOU. Let's say you want to take out another loan, right? You borrow money from a guy, you had a shtar, the whole deal, you did it correctly, and then you paid him back, and then you have the shtar. The loiva has the shtar, and then he goes back to the lender and says, you see, I was such a good guy, I borrowed money from you and I paid it back, and I borrow again, using the same shtar. The reason why you can't use the shtar is because the shibud is going to be machal, right? Because I imagine you're not going to redo the shtar, then meaning you're just going to use the same old shtar. So then the lekuchas, meaning the lien holders, are going to have a hard time with it. So now the Gemara is asking Amos, when was he trying to do the second loan? If it's tomorrow, or what is this word, the Yom HaChara? So Rashi says the Yom HaChara means Shtei Tevas Hein, Uliyom Acharav. The kids are safe from who? Very interesting Rashi. I found it interesting Rashi. The Liyom HaChara, meaning it doesn't. I can't write Lamachar because that already said. Liyom HaChara it's two words. I guess Rashi some people might have had a version that it's a Liyom HaChara one word. I can imagine that's why our print has it as two words, right? Your print has it as one, Gershon?
No, it's two words, but Rashi, the continuation of Rashi says it's short for, where is it?
The kitzur seif from who? It's a kitzur seif.
Well, Liyom Achrav.
Yeah.
It means it's supposed to be.
The
it would say Liyom Achrav, but it's short.
Took out 2 letters, 3 letters. Okay, to make it shorter. I thought maybe Rashi's trying to tell you that it's 2 words. Don't think that it's 1 word. Because if you're trying to make it shorter, make it into 1 word. And then, of course, you get into that the Gemara is talking about whether you should rewrite a star, and of course Rashi says that it's a cipher thing to write this word a little, right? That's the kederach of the Gemara, right? Either way, so the Gemara is asking, so when does this guy want to reuse a star? If it's the next day or subsequent days, my area shekvar nimchal shibudai. Why are you saying that the reason is because the shibud is machal? It's a star muktam, meaning this star was written for last week, let's say, and now you're using it for this week. So you can't ever have a star muktam. You can't write shtaras before because the loan only happened this week. If the guy sold properties in between, the lien holder is going to be able to collect on it, which is not right. The loan only happened today, and this star is going to be written from a week ago or a month ago, whatever it is. V'tnan shtari chayv hamakdim and psul, and a star mukdim is possible. Elallah b'yomim, it must be it's the same day. Hamapari inchi b'yomim. So you see how they're using the star that day. The same day he wants to use the same star. That means he must have paid back the loan that day, right? So since he paid back the loan that day, you see that people do pay back loans that day, right? Yeah, so that's a kasha. Again, we said that you don't pay back loans that day. Gershon clearly not liking this kasha, but we said that people don't pay back loans on that day. Clearly, from this Gemara, somebody does pay back a loan on that day. Amarle,
just because someone did means we should be chayshish for it. It's not a normal thing. It's not something we could be chayshish for.
Well, that's sort of what he answers. Right? Amarle, Mika, Mina, the Loi Pare Cloud, did I say that there's no such thing as somebody who doesn't pay? I'm talking about that it's not common for people. Most people don't pay back, but there's always that yeki. Basically saying there's always yeki, right? That will pay back the loan on that. The second they get the money, they're not going to hold on to it. They're going to pay it back. He says you're allowed to give back the star when the guy who is the loiva is maida that it wasn't paid. So what's the chiddush? Of course you give it back. Right? Again, we're going on the Gemara. It says you find the star, you give it back to the malva. So now the Gemara is saying, well, it's talking about when the loiva admits. You give it back to malva. Well, of course, if the loiva admits he didn't pay it back, so why wouldn't you give the star back to the malva? So when it's malva, the same really he paid it back. And the reason why the loiva is saying that he didn't pay it back because he wants to get in the good graces of this lender, and he wants to be able to mahadar lemisva. Lemisva is another term used for borrow. He wants to borrow again zimna achriti another time. Ulapshiti to safri chayish, and he's a cheap guy. He doesn't want to pay the cipher again. All right. And Mameli says, "Oh, let him take the star, give it back to the malva, and then I'm going to go back to him tomorrow and say, hey, you have a star that I already paid back. You mind using that star again?" And he saves a few dollars in cipher fees. Right, Kamash Malon. So we hear from this, the Imkain, that if so, Malva Gufeit Lo Shava. The Malva himself should not allow it. Savar, Shami Rabbana, because the Malva is going to say, the Rabbana are going to hear that I'm reusing a star, Umasik they're going to make me have a loss. Okay. So why is this different than this? We learned in the Mishnah Matzah Shtari Chayv. If somebody finds Shtar Chayvs in Yeshman Achrayis Nechasim, right from our Mishnah a few blocks ago, that's how we started this whole sugya. If you find Shtari Chayv, if there's Achrayis Nechasim, meaning if there's if there's liens on it, meaning that the lien holders can come take it, Lo Yasser, you don't give it back. Well, Kimna, what do we say the case is talking about? Shechayev Maida. When the loiva is Maida. And the first teretz the Gemara said over there is that we're concerned that in the star was written that the borrowing happened in Nisan, but the loan didn't actually happen until Tishrei. And of course, that's like Basi the Mitra of Lakuchas, Nisan Tishrei Shaloikidin, and people are going to come take from the Lakuchas, meaning they're going to collect from Tishrei Shaloikidin. And we don't say to Imkain Malva Kufei Lo Shavit. Why don't we say, the Malva himself would never do this? Meaning, why would the Malva take a paper that says he had a loan in Nisan if the loan is not happening until Tishrei? Chasav Shtar Achrini b'Tishrei, we'll write a new star in Tishrei. The Dilma Shami Rabbanon, because maybe the Rabbanon are going to hear about my tactics, and they're going to hear that I'm accepting shtaras for a loan before I even pay back the loan. They're going to cause a loss to me. So our answer is Amri Hasam Mishum Isla Ravacha. Since he has a big profit from this, the Qatar of the Kuvas Nisan Tishrei, because it's they're going to take the Lakuvas from Nisan to Tishrei. Meinach Nichale. So then this is a good scam. He's getting 5 months. He's on here, C1. He's on here, C1. Thomas of 6, 7 months. 6 to 7 months of that he's able to have. He'll be able to collect from other properties. Below Amar, below Midi, he's not going to say anything. Meaning, a guy's going to baloney if it's real worth it to him. Even the less the Ravacha here by reusing a star, there's not that much profit in it. The Saif Saif Shtara Idnaksiv, the star is written right now, and it's the same day. He's not going to be able to go collect earlier from properties that the guy has. It's one day. So so a star that there's no lien holders, he's gonna be afraid that they're gonna find out that he's double dipping on a star, and therefore it's no good. So yeah, so the bottom line is that we're being mechalik now between whether a malva is gonna rewrite a star or force a guy to rewrite a star if it's not such a gain for him. If it's a big gain for him, he will do it, but if not. Fine. Another case. Let's say a guy goes after Maisa Bezdin. Right? So what is a Maisa Bezdin? Meaning it's a Tnai Bezdin, meaning something that Bezdin requires you. Rashi says, the bottom Rashi. Rashi says, what's Maisa Bezdin? This is going to come up in tomorrow's daf or the next day's daf. A ksuba is a Tanai Bezdin, feeding a woman and the daughters, right? And so in that case, meaning it's an automatic that he has to pay these things, that he says that he, again, we will get to the on the base. Now. Loi Omar Klum. He said nothing, meaning we don't believe him. My timer. Call Maisa Bezdin, command the Nokit Shtar B'Yadidami. All Maisa Bezdin as if he's holding a star in his hand. Right? And meaning it's as if a star, and the guy is saying that he's paying it back. Right? So Amar le Reb Chiya bar Abba le Reb Yochanan, isn't just a straight up Mishnah. Hatzia get, if a woman brings out a get, but there's no ksuba, meaning she has a get and there's no ksuba. Goiva ksubasa, she collects her ksuba because even though there's no ksuba, but she shows a get. Meaning again, she's showing the get. She doesn't have a ksuba to prove that she was entitled to money, but she has a get. The husband says, I already paid her. So we say that she's allowed to accept it. Why? Because it's a Tanai Bezdin. And she has. We know that it's automatic that when a man gets married, he has to agree to give the ksuba. So regardless of whether she has a ksuba or not, since it's a Tanai Bezdin, the guy's not believed. So it's as if she has her ksuba. So you see
that ain't a my ksuba, I mean, there isn't with the get a ksuba, or there isn't with him, the husband. If he's paid it, he's supposed to have the ksuba.
What do you mean? You want it just saying it's ein imai, meaning there's a ksuba out?
Means he doesn't have the ksuba. The ksuba is not with him.
I didn't learn. Why should he have the ksuba?
Because he's claiming he paid it. If he paid it,
if it's ksuba, then there's nothing to talk about.
That's the point.
Yeah, but there's no shaila then. What's the shaila?
That would take away the shaila. As long as he doesn't have the ksuba, he's still chayiv to give it. If he has the ksuba, he's patri. Then he can take a time. I paid it.
Yeah. I don't know. I understood it that there's no ksuba. Whatever it is, there's no ksuba here at this point. That's right. Anyway, so it's a kasha because we see a Mishnah seems to be saying the same thing. Amar Leis, he said back to me, Lav the Deloila Chaspa. If I wouldn't have lifted up again, Chaspa is a shard, right? A shard, like a piece of earthenware, Loi Mishkachsa Marganisa Tusa, you would not have found the pearl under it. Meaning, you're only getting it out of the Mishnah because I already told you this, a similar din. And then he's saying, oh, the Mishnah already taught it to us. You're only learning Pshat in the Mishnah that way because I taught you this din. If I would not have taught you that din, you would not have gotten that out of the Mishnah. Right? So, Amar Abaya, now this next Gemara really goes halfway down the next Amar. But, okay, we'll see where we'll stop, what exactly we'll stop. So, Amar Abaya, my Marganisa, what are we saying that, what type of pearl? Dilma, meaning, who says you could even learn it out from there? Dilma, but Malcolm Shein Kaisik Ksuba. Maybe we're talking about in the city where the minig is that they don't write a ksuba. They get Hainu Ksubasa. And they assume that the get is her ksuba. But if it's in a place that they write a ksuba, if she has a ksuba, she can collect. If she doesn't have a ksuba, then she doesn't collect. Right? Meaning, who says? Where do we get that?
You can yell at my kids. Tell them to be quiet.
I don't know. I think it's nephews. I think they're leaving, so I figured I'm not going to bother. Okay, I think they left. Okay. So, anyway, so the Gemara is asking that Abaye is asking. Maybe it's talking about in a city that there's no ksuba, that they don't normally write a ksuba. And the Gemara ksuba says there are some places that they didn't write a ksuba. Right? But Enochanami was a place that it was written in a ksuba, that they're normally supposed to write a ksuba. If she doesn't bring the ksuba, she's not getting her money. What I just said is not true. Because if you're going to think that the Mishnah is talking about in a place that they don't write the ksuba, but if it's a place that they write a ksuba, if she has the ksuba, then she could collect and if not, she can't collect. So how does an almana from Erison, meaning there's Erison and then there's Kedushin, in the Suin, I'm sorry. Erison and the Suin. Erison is basically what we call engagement, which it's not. Harayat Mekudeshes Li is Erison, and Kedushin is the Sheva Brachos that goes on under the chuppah, right? That's why we read the Ksuba in between to separate the Bayer Pri Agofim. But back then they did it over a year. They did the Erison, the Harayat Mekudeshes Li, which for the most part she became his wife. Then, but not fully, and then there was Nesuin. Now, really, the Ksuba goes from Nesuin, right? But Abaye is saying that the Ksuba can get, you can receive. Let's not mix it up with get. You can receive the Ksuba even after the engagement, meaning of what we call engagement, but it's meaning even an initial marriage, right? But there's no Ksuba then. She could collect the Ksuba money, but there's no actual ksuba. The ksuba is not until Nesuin. So how do you ever have that almana mina erison? Let's say her husband dies during the year that they were engaged. But my gavya, how is she going to collect it? Eidem misas bal, is she going to collect it with the eidem that the husband died? Litain, right? Litain v'lema parate. Let him say, I already paid it. And if you say yes, imkain maha ilu chachamim takanosim. So then, what did the chachamim? What did it help that they made a takana that when a woman gets engaged, she gets the ksuba? If the guy can just say I paid, and he's believed, right? So therefore, it can't be talking about a place, meaning she would be believed even if there's no ksuba, even if it is in a place where you normally have the ksuba. Abaye is saying she would still be believed in if she doesn't have iksuba. It's not only in a place where they don't give the iksuba.
How did he say he paid if he's dead?
His what's it called?
That's why Rashi says is Irish.
Yeah, the Yarshim say paid. Now, how do they know? I don't know how they know, but they must have some sort of proof. Right? So Amarle Makshish Brei the Rav Chisda Rav Ashi. So Makshisha of the son of Rashi, Valmonam and Harrison, Dislak Suba Mignolam. How do you know that a woman that became an almana from Harrison gets a ksuba? How do we know this? That whether she became an almana or divorced from, whether it's from Harrison or whether from the Suin, she collects the whole ksuba. Maybe that's only where he taka wrote her ksuba. He was a nice guy and he wrote her ksuba from the engagement. But who says that without a ksuba, she gets the ksuba? Meaning a guy can go over to any lady in the street and say, hey, you know what? If I die, I'll give you 20 grand, right? You could do that. I don't know why you do that, but let's say you could do that. So if the guy did that with the ksuba from engagement, then fine, she'll get it if he does. But if not. And if you say, okay, so then what's the chiddush? Of course, if a guy writes a ksuba to his wife voluntarily, even before he's fully married, and then she'll collect on it. So Gemara says, "Lafukim edu Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah." It's excluding Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Amar shaloi kosav lo ela manas l'koinsa. Right, that even though he wrote her a ksuba, but he only wrote the ksuba that it's going to kick in if they get married, and then it'll go retroactive.
Tosefes ksuba.
I don't know if it's this. Is it Tosefes?
It has to be because
Why?
he's chayv l'ksuba either way. He's chayv l'ksuba from Harrison. That we've already established.
Well, we're trying to figure out how we're establishing that.
But we said that already. We were masik that. That's a given.
Yeah, but this is what we're trying to prove it from.
No, we're trying to say the chiddush is lafukim is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said he only wrote the ksuba with the tosefes so that she would marry him. She would do nisuit.
Oh, so yeah, Rashi and Ksuba says that. I'm looking at the most of Rashi, not because I remember Rashi and I don't even remember this Gemara being in Ksubas at all. Right? Never. But yeah. But I guess Gershon remember. It says the Tosefes. So Rashi and Ksuba says the Tosefes. So
oh, I cheated. Rashi here says it's a Tosefes. Shalei Kosev Love, the second to last Rashi.
Rashi here says it too. You're right. I was just looking at it. I went straight to the most of Rashi. You're right. Yeah, okay. It's strichale. That's the chiddush. Meaning that it's excluding Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, because Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah holds that the extra ksuba money, meaning the basic ksuba money, has to give either way. That was the Takanas Chacham. But even the extra ksuba money, he has to give only if not even, but the extra ksuba money he only gives if they get married. If they don't get married, she's not getting it. So we're coming to exclude that and say no. If he promises extra money, he's going to have to give it to her whether they get married or not. It says collect everything. If he writes, you wrote this derhainu the kotani goyves hakol, you collect everything. Because if you wrote a ksuba and he added things into the ksuba, so that's what it means, collect everything. Now, but he didn't write a ksuba. My goyves hakol. What do you mean collect everything? She only gets 100 or 200, meaning if she's an almana or a grusha, she gets 100. If she's a psula, she gets 200. Right? So therefore, it must be it's talking about where he added stuff to the ksuba. Yeah. Okay. I guess this is a good place to stop. Otherwise, we got to go all the way down to the Mishnah, which wouldn't be so bad. But then. Yeah, okay, we'll stop it over here. Tomorrow we'll take it up. The Gemara, the next Gemara again does we'll try to figure out where we know that there's the almana from Harrison collects the ksuba money, even if there's no ksuba. Okay. Till